feel, you can see, you can smell the Porsche heritage of the last 8 decades.
It's a very old building from 1960. Yeah, this facility is very special and for us very, very important.
So of course, it's on a secret place somewhere in the surroundings and suburbs of Stuttgart.
To maintain Porsche history is not only our mission, it's our obligation.
Porsche projects made for other companies. Mercedes, Audi RS2 Avant, Lada Samara, a Russian car, some Seat projects for Spain, concept study of a family car for China.
This is a major step into the future of our history. This facility is very special and for us very, very important. Today we move around 20 cars from the collection of the Porsche Museum into this storage facility.
The Porsche Museum has a collection of 505 cars at the moment, and now we have found one place where we can store all of them.
And we just got this building, so we are quite lucky to have the possibility now to move with the museum cars, that we can move them into this facility and have enough space for the future of the cars. Of course, the cars are not parked here. This is a kind of hub, like a big airport where the cars come in, the cars go out, and it's a kind of rotation disc for all the events all over the world.
This facility is not a normal warehouse. This is the storage of the Porsche Museum, and of course it's not a public place. The collection of the Porsche Museum is a heritage of the Porsche brand. These 500 cars, they are representative for the last 80 years of automobile production of Porsche. Our aim is to preserve them, not just only to show them in our museum, we have to preserve them for the next generations. And that's why we are very ambitious to keep these cars running. That's why we do restoration projects. That's why we try to maintain them as good as possible. And in this facility we have found a perfect space, because here we have perfect climatic surroundings for these cars. One of the unique cars we have here in the collection is the very first 911 Turbo, which was the birthday present for Louise Piech in 1973. She's a sister of Ferry Porsche, the daughter of Ferdinand Porsche, and she's one of the key figures of the Porsche history. And yeah, it's not just the very first one. You can make out it was her private car. First of all, she didn't want to have the turbo badge on the back. And if you look at the windows, you can see that just the side and the rear windows are painted, they're colored. The front window is not colored at all, because Louise Piech was also an artist and she liked to paint in the car. She was driving in the Alps, and sitting in the car she was painting. And for that reason she didn't like to have a colored window, because she wanted to have the real colors when she did her artistic work. We're here on a very special, fascinating place. That's the new storage facility of the Porsche Museum.
Porsche history is so rich in tradition, and it's a so huge variety. It's motorsports, it's stories behind the cars, and each car that you see here behind me is telling a different story. To maintain the Porsche history is not only our mission, it's our obligation. And Porsche does not to have invent stories. We have a good history since more than 60 years. And each single car here on display or in the storage hall is presenting a single part of this rich history. And it's a big mission to keep it and to take care of this history. And yeah, of course, and I can promise you that each of these single car we will bring it back into running condition. We want not only display it, we want to use it and bring the heritage into all markets and into all countries of the world.
Here we store our museum's collection, more than 500 cars, and for me that's a magnificent place because here you can feel, you can see, you can smell the Porsche heritage of the last 8 decades. So it makes it a very special place for me as a Porsche historian. Our collection is always good for some surprises, and it just recently happened that we found a car we almost forgot about. It's a 924 world record car. This car was inspired in the early 70s by the Mercedes-Benz world record car C111 diesel. Porsche had the idea to create a world record version out of a 924, which should participate on world records about 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles. And so they've made a very highly aerodynamic version of the 924 with a turbocharged and intercooled engine. This was in 1976. But then Porsche realized that Mercedes was working on a successor, the C112, and then they stopped the project because they were not sure if it would be successful at the end, and that's the reason why this car was never used for world records.
Besides a lot of interesting cars that we bring in today, there's a very special one. It's a 928 convertible. It's just a one of a kind. This car is made as a prototype, but if you look at this car, you can easily put it into a showroom all over the world because it looks like a car of today, and in my opinion it's one of the most fascinating prototypes the Porsche ever built. Today it's stored here, but I'm sure that we will bring it over to the static display into the Porsche Museum a few meters away from this facility.
We have many cars here which were not on public in the last 3 decades. Cars like the Type 984, the Porsche Junior here. This was a kind of predecessor of the Boxster from 1984, 1985. We also have a very special 906 here. It's an all-villa hill climb race car. And this car is untouched for the last nearly 50 years. And you can see that it has some little damages on it, but the car is absolutely original. The 906 hill climb car was specially made for hill climbs, which means the wheelbase is shorter. It was a lightweight concept. The European Hill Climb Championship was very important for Porsche in the second half of the 60s. And Porsche was able to win this championship 3 times in a row.
Recently, we discovered a 908 race car, a famous Targa Florio race car that is in a very good shape. So after pulling it out and a little bit refurbishment, we recognized that it's a pure Targa Florio race car, 908, that was not on display in the museum before. So the next thing that we do is we bring it into a good shape, we bring the engine back into running condition, and then this car will be displayed prior to the Targa Florio race this year in October to show that we're participating there with the 908.
In the early 1970s, there was an oil crisis, and for that reason, Porsche was working on new concepts of automobility. And one project of Porsche engineering, inspired by the German Ministry of Transport, was the idea of having a long-term concept car. The result was the study FLA from 1973. It's a really an unusual car, and with this car, Porsche was demonstrating how cars could be built which last for 20 or 30 years.
The highlight car that is being brought in today is a 996, a 911, which is completely bulletproof. And in particular, this is so interesting for me because I worked for Mercedes a long time, and normally Mercedes claimed that they build bulletproof cars, you know. And this was, in the last years of Porsche, Porsche tried to do bulletproof cars, which is very, very unusual. And the car looks like a complete regular 996, but it weighs, I think, around 3 tons. And but this bulletproof car I have to drive, and it's my personal favorite for today's entry of museum cars. You never know, perhaps you need it.